Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com. I'm your host, educator Lessin, with my co-host, Karen Christine Patrick, and Miss Furball is coming in here now to co-host as well. And today we interview our very special guest, Dick Larson, and this is an episode of Experiencers Network, and today is Thursday, March 3rd, 2016. And before I bring in Karen and Dick, I'd like to just say a little bit about who is Dick Larson. He was a corporate business executive for 20 years before becoming a counselor and an educator. He is a volunteer for Share International, a worldwide nonprofit educational institution. He has been a guest on radio talk shows nationwide, co-hosted a radio program, and produced a series of public access television shows that air around the nation. And we're going to be talking about Maitreya. What is the source of Dick's information? His source is British artist and futurist Benjamin Creme, author of 17 books offering the latest Ageless Wisdom Teachings, as well as information about the world teacher for this age. Larson hosted 3 television interviews with Mr. Creme and has spent time with him discussing the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, an ancient philosophy, not a religion, and the world teacher. And who is Benjamin Creme? He's the chief editor of Share International magazine. The magazine focuses on political, economic, social, and spiritual changes now occurring globally and is read in over 70 countries. He is an international lecturer and media guest appearing on radio and TV shows since 1980, preparing the way and creating the climate of expectancy that is facilitating Maitreya's emergence. And he receives no payment for this work and makes no claims about his own spiritual status. Karen, are you there?
Yes, I am. Glad to be here.
What would you like to say before we bring on Dick? I know you haven't had much time to research this because I kind of brought you on last minute, and you've been fighting.
I'm always interested in the interchange between spirituality and economics. Lately they've been talking about half the world's wealth being, held by 62 individuals, I think it is right now, and it seems like it's kind of out of balance. It seems like the spirituality of that kind of thing is that, some people are more equal than others, I guess. And so I'm always interested is how can we achieve some kind of balance in spirituality and economics. I'll be glad to hear about that tonight.
I'd be glad to hear about it, too. So welcome, Dick, to our show. Thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you very much, Janet and Karen. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're delighted to have you. So I haven't had much time to research what you're all about. My apologies. I've just been traveling, and I just got back a couple days ago and had to deal with stuff here at the property. So here we are. So we're all ears and open to hearing what you have to say. So would you like to tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and about your message?
Sure, thank you. I'm really nobody. I mean, I'm a counselor, and I live in Southern California. The source for my information, you said very clearly and very nicely, is Benjamin Creme. It's actually spelled Creme, although it's spelled C-R-E-M-E. Benjamin Creme lives in London. Okay. He's been traveling the world for about 40 years, telling the story that I'm going to be telling tonight, my version of it. But he's the source of my information, and as you said, he's written 17 books. They're available on Amazon. I'm not here to sell books, but if people want to find out more information, they can kind of browse through Amazon at Benjamin Creme, spelled Creme, and his books. He traveled to the U.S. every year. He came to New York and gave a lecture. Then he came to Los Angeles, and that's where I met him and saw him. Then he went to San Francisco every year, and then he went on to Tokyo and a couple other cities in Japan. But he's traveled the world telling the story about the fact that every 2,000 years we get a teacher. 2,000 years ago was the great teacher Jesus, and he brought the teaching of God's love. Well, it's been 2,000 years, and in that time, in that 2,000 years, we have proceeded through the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. Well, Jesus came to inaugurate the age of Pisces. He was the teacher for that age. And now it's been 2,000 years. It's time for another teacher. This will be the teacher for the age of Aquarius, which is the age that we're now into, and we're leaving Pisces and entering Aquarius. And so I come to talk about the teacher, about when you can expect to see him on television and maybe in person, and the fact that he doesn't come alone. He comes with other teachers to help us dig our way out of this mess that we've gotten ourselves into. He is part, and his other teachers are part of the forces of light that come periodically to help humanity. Well, another part of the forces of light, which we might find time to talk about tonight, are the space brothers and sisters, the space people. They are here as well, and they've come to support our spiritual hierarchy, the teachers of our spiritual kingdom. You know, each kingdom on our planet and in the universe supports and feeds the kingdom above it. The mineral kingdom feeds the plant kingdom. The plant kingdom feeds the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom feeds the human kingdom, and the human kingdom feeds the spiritual kingdom. And that's just how it's set up. That's the order of evolution of our world and of humanity and so on. Well, the spiritual kingdom is made up of people who went through evolution ahead of us, just like us. And some of those great people are people like Krishna and the Buddha and Jesus and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and all these beings that went ahead of us, Confucius and others, and are now part of the spiritual kingdom. And behind the scenes, they have inspired humanity over the eons to progress and to advance and to evolve. And so now this spiritual kingdom is returning in physical form for the first time in 2,000 years to help us once again advance and evolve and, like I said, dig our way out of the mess that we've made of our world and of our society. So that's the story that I'm here to talk about.
Bookmark? Yeah. Okay, excellent. I want to bookmark right there because I have 2 or 3 questions that I want to ask, and I know Karen probably does as well.
Wonderful.
Let me start. Because I like to dissect things a little bit, slow it down, and also people like to have voices go back and forth, so it makes it like a dialogue rather than a diatribe. So what we're going to so we have, you're saying that we have these spiritual teachers that come every 2,000 years. What about the story of the Messiah and Jesus and his second coming? Is Maitreya, since he kind of looks like Jesus in his physical representation, is Maitreya another kind of thread of consciousness of the Christic consciousness, or is he a separate spiritual entity altogether?
Yeah, good question. The short answer is yes, he is. And the rest of the short answer is Jesus is here too. He is living outside of Rome.
You mentioned the whole group.
Yep.
Okay.
There are 14 masters now on the planet, and by the time the next 2,000 years are over, there will be about 42, 43. But their leader, Maitreya is his personal name, Maitreya. Maitreya is the leader's personal name. It means the happy one, the one who brings joy. Maitreya is the world teacher for the age of Aquarius, and he will come first. He will appear first. He's here in a physical body that he made, can't be destroyed, can't be killed. So is Jesus. Jesus lives outside of Rome. The Pope knows Jesus is here. But the Pope has been asked not to say anything because the masters do not want to infringe our free will. Our free will is sacred. And so the Pope, if the Pope said Jesus is here, almost every Catholic in the world, which is the largest religion in the world, would believe him. Well, that would infringe our free will. So Jesus is waiting for Maitreya to come forward first, then Jesus will come forward as well.
Okay. And are these, from what dimension do these spiritual leaders come from, and how many dimensions are there?
Well, we don't speak in terms of dimensions. The Ageless Wisdom is the teaching that Benjamin Creme brings with him. And the Ageless Wisdom has been taught by various teachers over the history of humanity. It's as old as humanity is. The Ageless Wisdom before Benjamin Creme, the teacher, was Alice A. Bailey. She wrote about 20 books in the 1930s and 40s. And before her, there were other teachers. Blavatsky, Madame Blavatsky was one of the teachers of the Ageless Wisdom. Benjamin Creme is the latest. And the Ageless Wisdom does not talk about dimensions. It talks about kingdoms, and the kingdom that we're referring to is the spiritual kingdom. It exists.
Okay.
And the spiritual masters, there are 63 of these great beings that oversee humanity from the spiritual kingdom of planet Earth. And their consciousness is actually, it's not up in the sky somewhere, it's actually on the planet. They're located in the mountains and desert regions of the world, the remote regions of the world. And so they're actually part of our planet, but they're the spiritual kingdom. They can take physical bodies if they need to or if they want to, but they don't have to because they're pure consciousness.
Yeah. Karen, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just asking, like, if the Pisces era was like one lesson, could you put it in terms of what the Pisces era lesson was and what you anticipate the Aquarian theme will be?
Absolutely. Great question. Well, we started, as you probably know, about every 2,250 years, our planet and our solar system come into alignment with one of the 12 constellations which surround our solar system. And for the last 2,000 years, we have been in alignment with the great constellation Pisces. And, of course, these constellations have tremendous energies. And those energies pour into our planet and help, as you said, Karen, with the evolution of the planet, with the lessons that humanity needs to learn next. Well, for the last 2,000 years, we have been in alignment with, and so we say we are in the age of Pisces. The two primary energies of Pisces are individuality and dedication to an ideal. Over the last 2,000 years, man has come out of the herd. We stand alone now as individuals with our own thoughts and our own ideas. And so individualization was one of the great lessons of the Piscean age. The other great lesson was dedication to an ideal, and it was dedication to the ideal of freedom that saved the world from Hitler and the Japanese generals and Mussolini, the Italian general, in World War II. They wanted to conquer the world, and it was dedication to the ideal of freedom that saved humanity from those conquering forces of evil. And so those have been the primary lessons of the age of Pisces. Now, in 1625, we started moving out of the influence of Pisces, and in 1675, we started moving into the influence of Aquarius. The two primary energies of Aquarius are synthesis and cooperation. So what you're going to see happening is men and women working in groups. The Aquarian energy supports group action, not individual action. And so you see things like people marching in the streets over in the Middle East, and they threw out their government just by marching in the streets. That's typical of the kind of thing that Aquarian energy will allow and will facilitate. For example, Benjamin Creme is in touch. He gets his information. Some people might ask this question. He gets his information from one of the 63 masters. He is in touch with one of the 63 masters of the spiritual kingdom, and that's where he gets his information. And his master has told him that it will even go so far as the President of the United States will no longer be one person. It will be a panel of wise people. So Aquarian energy supports group action. It's time for the ordinary people on the planet, folks like me and you and your listeners, it's time for us to run the world, not independent people with a lot of power. And that's what's going to happen. What's going to happen is our governments will start representing us. I mean, these are going to be big, big, big changes. And humanity, the average people, are going to start deciding how the world is going to be. That's what's ahead, and it's actually happening right now.
So we're going to have, originally with the, I don't know if you're familiar with the Anunnaki, but we had a council of 12 rather than a single president. Are you saying it's going to be something like that? There'll be a council and those types of decisions will be made accordingly to that? And how does the average person get their representation in this new system?
Because the leaders will be more evolved than they have been lately. The leaders will be more evolved, and they will choose to represent the people's wishes. And so they will respond to people's wishes rather than to corporate power and things like that.
So we're going to avoid having to get Hillary or Trump.
Well,
we're going to avoid that one.
I don't see any way that Trump could be president, given the Aquarian energies that are going on, because he is so Piscean. He's about me and about power and about control, and that's not Aquarian at all. And right now, the reason we have so much chaos going on right now and so much separation, you see how far apart now the liberals are from the conservatives and even in the political parties. I mean, they've never been this far apart that I can recall. That's typical of Piscean individuality because it causes separation. And it's caused tremendous separation on the planet right now, and Aquarian energy comes to resolve that separation and bring us back to the middle. So that's what's going to be happening. Everything we have is built with Piscean energy, the government, the educational system, the healthcare system, the financial system, and none of it works anymore. Well, that's because Piscean energy is being... and that's because Piscean energy is being withdrawn, and they can't work. They can't do anything but collapse. These great institutions that have served us so well for so long aren't going to do that anymore. They're not doing it anymore. We need to rebuild them with Aquarian energy, with cooperation rather than competition. And then they will be rebuilt and serve humanity very well. But the way they are right now can't work. All they can do is collapse, and that's what they're doing.
Karen, do you have any questions before we let Dick continue?
Yeah, because I was interested in your comments about the Space Brothers, because we've had periods of time, studying ancient aliens. People know that there's been times when people on Earth have been more aware of our space families, and then we've had this very kind of dark period where you get mocked if you even talk about it. Do they generally work from behind the scenes, or are there times in human history where we're more aware of their interaction with us?
You're right. There were times in human history when we've been more aware of their interaction and not so afraid of them. The fear has come, and the dark times, as you so beautifully referred to it, has come from the Western governments discrediting them for the last 60 years. They've been discrediting the space people. The space people are not here to hurt us. They're not here to dominate us. That's not what they're about at all. They're a little more advanced than we are. There's nothing they can learn from us. Nothing. There's a lot we can learn from them. They've been visiting us for over 100,000 years. And even in cave dwellings, there's drawings of the space people. And I don't call them aliens, and I'm sure you don't either, because that's a horrible name made up by the Western governments to make us afraid of them. They have been discrediting them. They've been going out and slaughtering cattle and things like that and blaming it on the space people. All these terrible things that they've been doing to discredit the space people. The space people are here to help. They're actually here on a mission of mercy, and that mission of mercy, as I'm aware of it, has 4 parts to it. But no, they've been discredited by the governments for the last 60 years, and that's created this dark period where people are afraid of them, and the space people don't want to scare us, so they backed off. That's exactly what they've done.
So, which species are helping us? I'm sure you're familiar with the extraterrestrial lore and experiencers. We have the Greys and the Reptilians and the Anunnaki and the tall whites and mantis, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Are you aware of which species are aiding us, and are there any that are dark and have an agenda, a dark agenda?
Yeah. Well, let me answer the last question first. No. My information is that they are here to help, they love us, they care about us, and that the people who are the bad space people, they're not allowed to travel. They're not allowed to leave their planet. And that's my information. So the only people that visit us are the good people. And that there aren't species specifically. They come from, my information is, they don't come from Sirius, they don't come from any place far away. They all come from the planets in our solar system, mostly from our neighboring planets, Mars and Venus. The solar system is a system, just like the human body is a system, just like planet Earth is a system. And the solar system is a system, and there's a plan for each planet, and there's a plan for the solar system. The spiritual kingdom has a plan for each of these. Well, the solar system is like the human body. When part of it begins to hurt the rest of it, to hold it back in its evolution or to cause pain, then the rest rushes in to help. Well, that's how the human body is healed. We heal ourselves, and that's what the solar system is doing right now. Planet Earth, my information is, because we can't end war, because we can't stop killing our planet, we are holding back the evolution of the solar system. And so our neighbors, mostly from Mars and Venus, are coming in to help planet Earth get back on track and therefore help the evolution of the entire solar system. Now, the small people, the short people, which you might call the Greys, they're mostly Martians. And the tall, the white people, they're from Venus. And I'll tell you why. Mars is a smaller planet than Earth, but it has more people on it. It has about 8 billion people on Mars, and since it's a smaller planet, they have to be smaller. So they are. Venus, on the other hand, is almost a perfect planet. Each planet, according to the Ageless Wisdom, has 7 rounds of life, and each round is millions of years. Planet Earth is in the middle of the 4th round. So is Mars. But Mars hasn't made all the mistakes that we've made. So their evolution, especially their science, is thousands of years ahead of us. Venus, on the other hand, is in its 7th round. It's in its final round. It's almost a perfected planet. So the people on Venus are almost perfect, and they're very tall and they're very beautiful. And Benjamin Creme has said. Now, Benjamin Creme has met all these people. He's traveled in UFOs. He's very familiar with. He knew George Adamski and all those folks. Well, anyway, he said that if you met somebody from Venus, you would think you were talking to a god. That's how loving they are and how knowledgeable they are. One of the popes, Pope John, met a space visitor in his summer garden at his summer home. You guys are probably aware of that. And
I haven't heard it. Do you want to tell us about it?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, I can't remember which. It was one of the Pope Johns, and it was in the last 50 years, maybe 70 years. But he was at his summer home, and a UFO landed at the other end of the garden. Now, the story is told by the priest who was with the Pope. And the priest said that this UFO landed at the other end of the garden, and the Pope walked down to it, and the door on the UFO opened, and out stepped this very tall, very beautiful man, and immediately the Pope dropped to his knees.
Mm-hmm.
And the being signaled for him to stand. They talked for about 15 minutes. The guy got in his UFO and left, and the Pope came back, and all he said to the priest at the other end of the garden, all he said when he got back to him was, he said, "We have no idea how many people are living with us," and smiled and walked inside. And that's what Benjamin Creme wants people to know, that humanity is everywhere. That's what cosmos is. Cosmos is humanity. Now, there's a reason that we can't see the people that live on the other planets, and why we land a camera on Mars and it takes pictures and there's no buildings, there's no people, nothing. There's a reason for that. I'd be happy to share that with you.
Yeah.
The reason is because we're not aware of all the levels of solid physical matter. We're aware of solid, liquid, and gas. But there's a level above gas that's very much like gas. You can't see it. You can walk right through it. You can't smell it. Can't touch it. But it's real, and it's the next level above gas. And the Ageless Wisdom calls it etheric physical. Mm-hmm. Scientists call it dark matter. They've discovered dark matter. Well, that's what etheric physical is. And if you have etheric vision, which some people are getting the beginnings of etheric vision here on the Earth, they see auras, for example. That's the beginning of etheric vision. Well, we're the only planet that's just the right distance from the sun that we can have solid physical, we can have water, and we can have solid physical bodies and buildings and transportation, and we don't melt and we don't freeze. All the other planets, solid physical would melt or it would freeze. So they're in etheric physical. Now, they see each other just like you and I do, and they see their buildings and they see their transportation just like you and I do. But they're etheric physical, and we don't have cameras with etheric vision. So our camera sees nothing when, in fact, Mars is teeming with life, buildings, transportation, people everywhere. But they're in etheric physical. So are their spacecraft. So we only see their spacecraft when they want us to. And what they do is they lower the vibration of their craft until it temporarily becomes solid physical, and then we see it. Just like they can lower the vibration of their physical bodies until they become temporarily solid physical, and then we see them. Now, that's not their natural state, so they can't stay solid physical forever. For example, the UFO crash in
Roswell.
Yes. Those bodies are gone now. But the film that was taken of the autopsy, that's real. They were physical. That was a sacrifice, my information is, made by 3 Martians who wanted us to know that they're there, but they wanted us to know in a very harmless way. So they intentionally lowered the vibration of their craft and their bodies, and they crashed and killed themselves. It was a sacrifice to let us know that they exist. So what does our government do? Covers it up right away. Poor people.
Of course.
but their craft is no longer around because it's returned to etheric physical. Their bodies are no longer around because they've returned to etheric physical. So that explains why they're up there in the thousands all the time, but we don't see them.
So they don't have bodies that the subsequent presidents have. Like, there's a story that Nixon took Jackie Gleason to see the bodies. You're saying those bodies are gone?
They're gone now, yes. Yeah, they've returned to etheric physical. Yeah. That's why you can't find them, and that's why they can't find the craft. I mean, all that material is gone now. But that's why we don't see them all the time. We only see them when they want us to. They're trying not to scare us, and they have 4 parts to their mission of mercy.
Okay.
They're here to help.
Tell us about their 4 part of...
Well, the first one is pollution. As I said, we're holding back the evolution of the solar system because we can't stop killing our planet. They have huge craft that are in the earth, because they're etheric, they can be in the earth, in the oceans, and in the sky that do nothing 24/7 but mop up our pollution. Now, they can't mop it all up because karmically they're limited. It's not their mess. It's our mess. So karmically, they're limited as to how much they can mop up, but they're doing as much as they can and have been for decades to try and keep the planet alive until we wake up. And basically, they're succeeding so far. And so we owe them a huge karmic debt. Most of the pollution they're mopping up, the most dangerous pollution, is nuclear pollution, because nuclear energy is also etheric. And that's the part that our crude instruments can't measure. Well, etheric nuclear waste is spewing out of all of these plants all around the world. And we can't measure it because our instruments don't measure etheric energy, etheric physical. But etheric physical is real, and it's harming humanity. It's harming all of the kingdoms on the planet. The two biggest things that it's causing are earlier and earlier onset of Alzheimer's and a much, much higher incidence of autistic children being born. It used to be 1 in about every 800. Now it's 1 in about every 80 kids are autistic. That's from nuclear pollution.
I really thought it was the shots that they were giving kids for whatever. Here's a question.
Yeah, we don't know what's causing autism. I used to teach with autistic children, and I love those kids, but we don't really know what's causing autism. Well, one of the things that we know through Benjamin Creme and the Masters is that one of the things is nuclear waste. So one of their missions is to help mop up our pollution, especially nuclear pollution, until we wake up and clean up our own planet.
Okay, Karen, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Just like that. Oh, okay. Go ahead and ask a question. We'll go back and forth.
Oh man,
anytime you have a question, just jump in.
Oh yeah, I'm just
jump
listening.
In, Karen. Don't
just hearing the information, because I'd actually heard that our nuclear, whenever we were exploding nuclear bombs, that we were blasting through other levels of reality besides our own, and that subsequently the UFOs have showed up a lot more around nuclear facilities, and there's been a lot of activity. A gentleman by the name of Robert Hastings wrote a book called UFOs and Nukes, and it's kind of like they're trying to, give us. They've turned them off. There was one time when 50 ICBM missiles went offline, and they're independent systems, so it's not like you can flip a switch and turn them off. It's kind of like they're having to be more overt in trying to explain to us, that we shouldn't be playing with this kind of energy. And I'd even heard that there's been weird time anomalies and other things that have happened around nuclear explosions as well. So this is definitely not a good turn of events. And also, if we had been willing to be open to new forms of energy as we went into the modern era, other than oil, if we would have pursued other things, we wouldn't have been tempted to build nuclear energy. It was kind of a false scarcity of oil that made us experiment with that. So because of Fukushima and some of these other things, we're coming to the end of that this was even a good idea. So it's that we have free will, but I'm sure they have to give us really big hints sometimes, that we're going in the wrong direction. Because we're really I had 3 teenagers all at the same time, and it was that kamikaze era of a teenager where they're kind of self-destructive, and they grew up and they're totally okay adults. But one time they were telling me all the things that they got away with that I didn't know about, and I'm sure glad I didn't know about it. It would have made my hair even whiter than it is. But we're kind of an adolescent era civilization where we're gaining some capacity, but we're sometimes going down the wrong trail, and it's like, how do they kind of guide us back on a better trail?
Right. That's one of the things. My information agrees with what you said, Karen, 100%. They especially get around nuclear accidents to mop up the pollution and to let us know that this is not good. We shouldn't be tampering with this stuff. That they're mopping up pollution. They're trying to limit the damage to the area in which it occurred. For example, in Japan, the meltdown that happened there was a lot of concern that energy, that waste, might get to Hawaii and get to the west coast of the United States. Well, it never did, according to Benjamin Creme's master. The space people were able to limit it to not only Japan, but to the north end of the island of Japan. So they can't, karmically, they're limited as to what they can do, but they are really helping us out a lot. And we owe them a huge karmic debt, and we don't even know it, which eventually we're going to have to pay back. But, yes, they are helping us not kill our planet. And if if planet Earth had to start over, imagine what that would do to the evolution of the solar system. I mean, it would be catastrophic to the plan. And so they're here to help, like you said, help make us aware of it by showing up, intentionally showing up in places in high numbers. And more recently, they've just been appearing a lot more than they were in the past, because what they were hoping, my information is that they were hoping the governments would finally unseal their cases, their histories, their witnessed events, and make it available to the world that the UFOs do exist and that they're here to help and that they've never hurt anybody that they're aware of, and so on. And they've never done that. The governments have not done it. So now the space people have stopped waiting for the government to release the information, and they're coming directly to humanity. They're appearing more and more to ordinary folks all around the world because they've just given up on waiting for the government to tell the truth. So that's why there are so many sightings. I mean, if you go on YouTube, there's just sightings all over the place, and most of those are real. It's actually gotten pretty easy to spot the fakes. So, they're trying very hard to wake us up to some of the realities. The crop circles is another part of their mission. They're making these crops. I'm sure you've heard of the crop circles.
Oh, yeah.
Their craft fly. They don't push buttons and pull levers to fly their UFOs. They just think. Their machinery is so sophisticated it responds to human thought. And so they just think where they want to go and how fast they want to go there, and their craft takes them there. And then they think of the design that they want to make, and then their craft hovers over the crops, and it takes about 8 seconds to make some of the most sophisticated, huge crop circles you've ever seen. It takes them about 8 seconds. Some people have witnessed the actual light that's used to make the crop circles, but without seeing the UFO itself. And then they just take off. So these crop circles serve two purposes. Number one, they're a very friendly, beautiful, fancy calling card to say, I'm here. And the second thing they're doing, which I think you'll find very interesting, they're marking the magnetic grid of planet Earth with these crop circles. The crop circles mark the vortexes where the grids cross over each other. Yeah. They're marking that magnetic grid around our planet, and that energy, the energy from the magnetic grid of planet Earth combined with the sun's energy, will be a gift that they're going to give us called the technology of light, or the science of light. And they're going to give us this gift, and with those two sources of energy combined, will give us pollution-free, free of charge, endless energy for all of the planet's needs. But they can't give us the science of light until we stop war, because we'll find a way to make a weapon out of it.
Right.
And so they can't give us that yet. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I have to say something about crop circles. Oh, yeah, I wanted to make a mention about crop circles that are really interesting is the plant isn't really squashed or anything. It grows over, so it actually has a little bit of growth that bends each stalk. And in China, they've been harvesting those crop circle-based crops, and they've been getting a higher yield of grain. So not only is it not hurting the crop, but they're actually giving us a new, higher yield species if we would just, pay attention to this and appreciate it and see what's going on with it. It's not a negative thing at all.
No, there's real special energy there for a couple reasons. The space people put extra energy there, and it's the vortex of a magnetic grid of energy on our planet. So for sure, those crops are going to have more energy, and they're going to grow faster and healthier. And it's true, they never kill one blade of grass when they make those crop circles. They bend all those crops and even tie them in knots without breaking one of them. Isn't that something?
It's something else. I know.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. There's another thing that they're doing. The space people, each planet has its own spiritual kingdom. We call it a spiritual hierarchy because there's different levels, just like there's different levels of evolved human beings, there's different levels of evolution in the spiritual kingdom as well. And some spirits are greater and more evolved than other spirits. Well, each planet has its spiritual kingdom. And I just thought of something else. I distracted myself. But what I wanted to tell you, what I just thought of was Mars is the manufacturing plant for our solar system.
Okay.
They make all the UFOs.
What do you mean by
90% of them.
Oh, they make them.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. The other planets put in their orders for UFOs, and then Mars makes them according to whatever specifications they want, and then they go to Mars and pick them up.
Excellent. Well, I actually read that Errol the Grey, who was captured at Roswell. There's a whole story called Alien Interview by Lawrence Spencer. And she said that they actually create different species and insects and plants and stuff. And, people can, when they're settling a planet or terraforming a planet, just order a bunch of different species. And, of course, once they're exposed to the local environment over time, they have microevolution. But anyway, that was just we always wondered in the abduction phenomena, it's like, where do those metallic cables come from that everybody reports? And they go, well, where's the factory that's making those cables for the examination? So it must be Mars.
It is Mars.
It's fun.
Mars makes 90% of the UFOs. They love to work. They're very industrious people, and they love to work. And there's 3 levels. Mars is organized differently. Their spiritual kingdom organized the humanity differently. There's 3 different levels of humanity on Mars. One is the very evolved, the ones that have developed all this science and the ones that are so loving and spiritual. Then the next level of humanity on Mars is ordinary folks like us, like people walking around on planet Earth. And then the lower level of humanity on Mars, they live in the planet, and they are not allowed to fly. They're nasty, nasty folks. You would not want to meet them in a dark alley. They are not allowed to fly. They're not allowed above the surface except on special occasions. That's the lower level of the evolution of humanity on Mars. So Mars actually has 3 levels of evolution in their humanity, whereas we just have one, and we're all kind of somewhere on that line of evolution towards the spiritual kingdom. Yeah, I was going to mention that the spiritual kingdoms talk to each other, and they help work the plan for the solar system. Well, we have asked Mars and Venus for help to create something that you can see when you go outside at night. There is another star in the sky that wasn't there 10 years ago. You'll recall 2,000 years ago there was a star called the Star of Bethlehem that led the wise men. Right. It moved through the heavens and led the wise men to Jerusalem and shined down on the baby Jesus so they could find, in Bethlehem, so they could find the baby Jesus. Well, there's a star in the sky now. That announced the arrival of the teacher for the age of Pisces. There's a star in the sky now that announces the imminent arrival of the teacher for the age of Aquarius. Actually, it's not a star, though. I see it out my kitchen window. I see it looking northwest, about 30 degrees up almost every night. It shines and twinkles just like a star, one of the brightest lights in the sky, and you'll see it. If you look around, you'll see it because it's real bright, and it twinkles like a star, except it also twinkles colors, and it can move. It will move. And I've seen it do all of those. That's because it's not a star. It's a UFO. It's a huge UFO. Actually, there are 4 huge UFOs, one north, south, east, and west, so no matter where you are on the planet, you'll see one of them. They're 5 football fields big. They were made specifically for this purpose, to announce the teacher for planet Earth for the next age, the age of Aquarius, to announce Maitreya's imminent arrival, the world teacher. And just like 2,000 years ago that star was made, that was not a star. The Star of Bethlehem was a UFO. And that's why it traveled through the sky and shined down on the baby Jesus so they could find the baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph. It was a UFO built at the request of our spiritual kingdom for that purpose. Well, these stars have been built, one on Venus, one from Mars, one from Saturn, and one from another planet that hasn't been named yet. But those stars are up there now, and remember, these folks are very advanced. The crews of these UFOs are very advanced, and they're telepathic. And if you think to them or speak to them, they can understand you. And they have been known to respond to people. My wife saw it out the kitchen window. She said, "Is that Maitreya star up there?" And I said, "I don't know. Let's go outside and look." And we went outside. This was right after it first appeared. And in 2000, I think it was 2009 it first appeared. And we went outside, and I said, "If you're the star, would you please flash colors?" And I had my video camera, and I videoed it, and I loaded the footage I took into my computer, and these individual frames of all these different beautiful, all these shades of purple, all these shades of orange, all these shades of red came out. It was flashing colors. Then I said, "If you're the star, would you please move?" And we waited, I don't know, maybe 45 seconds, and then it went down and over and back. And I looked at my wife and I said, "Did that move or did I make that up?" And she said, "No, that moved." So it moved. Now, a friend of mine that I know, a woman that I know, saw one of the stars, and she said, "Could I please see another star?" And she waited about 30, 40 seconds, and another star, one of the four stars, just came in and lined up right beside that one. By the time she was done, all four stars were lined up in a straight line up in the sky. And then they took off, went back to where they were supposed to be. So you will see this. You can even see it during the daytime if it's clear. But it's up there every single night. And if you look, there's one for our hemisphere, and you'll see it somewhere in the sky. And then what it does, it twinkles until it needs to recharge, and then it leaves our Earth atmosphere, and it goes closer to the sun and absorbs the sun to recharge the batteries. Then it comes back. So it's not there every second, but it's there most of the time. And you'll see it. And if you do, I suggest you talk to it. Your listeners can see it.
Do. Where are you located? I'm in Hawaii.
I'm in South Los Angeles.
Okay.
Just south of Los Angeles, halfway between L.A. and San Diego, on the west coast. I'm 2 miles from the ocean.
I'm in New Mexico, not far from Roswell, actually. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then, Karen, you would look northwest, too. Karen, you would probably look northwest, too.
Yeah, most likely.
And, Janet, I would suggest for you it'll be northeast.
Northeast, okay.
Yeah, probably.
I'll go take a look.
Yeah, and I hope your listeners do too, because it's real. I mean, it's the star announcing the imminent arrival of the teacher for our age, and he doesn't come to start a religion. He doesn't come to tell us what to do. He doesn't come to do any of that. He's truly a teacher. His first four priorities are health care, food, housing, and education for everybody. Real basic stuff.
Yeah,
and that's his.
That comes into the economics thing, because they've made all of those things a gateway of economics. You know, you have to pay to live on your planet, basically.
Absolutely right.
And that kind of doesn't. I mean, when you kind of know about other cultures, extraterrestrial cultures, it's one reason why they don't really want us to know about other extraterrestrial cultures, because it's kind of like when you're from a poor country and you go to a different country and you see the differences of how people live, or you go to a spiritual place and you see how those people live. It's the comparison that immediately shines a light on the issues of your own situation if it's not a balanced situation.
And it's the cause of terrorism.
Right.
The difference between the haves and the have-nots. The have-nots say, "I want mine too." Nuts to you.
All right.
Well, I think one of the things that I came to the conclusion, I am living here in New Mexico, and we have this international spaceport that was built by a billionaire to take millionaires up to space. And then when they went to test one of their crashed. And so I've, kind of been scratching my head. It seems like the ticket to space apparently is not money. And we were talking about races not being able to leave their planet. It's like, I don't think the ticket to space is that, it's a money thing. I think it's a spiritual thing. I think that why would other races allow us off our planet to, bounce around the universe and share our ideas of inequality? I don't think that would be good for everyone else. So I think that's kind of a message to us, is that the ticket to space is really that we grow up and we make sure everyone is taken care of, has a home, has food, has health care and education and all that. That's kind of the conclusion I came to after watching these guys do their thing.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think you're spot on. I think you're absolutely right on. One of the things that we need in the world, we need freedom and we need justice. We need those two things. Well, in America, we have lots of freedom, but we don't have a lot of justice. If you don't have money, good luck in court.
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't justice. That's what we lack.
No.
And the socialist countries have lots of justice, but they lack some freedom. And what we need is a balance of the two. And we need freedom and justice all at once. And what needs to happen, and what is going to happen, is my understanding, to agree with you, Karen, is that money needs to basically disappear. And that is coming. There is going to be, all the predictions of the crash and a collapse. Well, that's what Maitreya has said. Maitreya has said really the best time for me to come forward would be after the markets completely collapse. And there's basically no money, because money is God right now.
Yeah.
And if you remove money as God, then the leaders of countries and everybody else are going to look around and say, what do we do now? What do we do now? That would be the perfect time for a teacher to come forward and say, I have some ideas. I'll share them with you, and if you want to do them, you can, and if you don't. That would be the perfect time. So there is going to be a collapse of the markets, more than what has already happened, I understand. And it's going to be mostly corporate, the collapse.
So what's going to happen in the interim? Are people going to be starving, or can we somehow do this transition smoothly so we get our needs met and we don't have people hitting rock bottom and out in the street?
Yeah, Maitreya has said that the masters will do everything they can to mitigate the harm to everyday folks. The biggest harm is going to be corporate. To the haves, the big haves that you were talking about, the 62 families that own most of the wealth of the world. Those
it was
are the
62
ones
individuals. It was 62 people, and it's gone down from 80-something people since the last summer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's starting to look like only a few individuals are going to own half the world's wealth, and it's like, how much money do you need to make, to live? It's a little boggling to the mind.
They're going to be very unhappy because the haves and the have-nots we're going to get a level playing field, basically, is what's going to happen.
I hope so.
And yes, sharing is the answer. That's what the teacher is going to say. He's going to say, the only thing you haven't tried is countries sharing their excess. Every country produces a lot of products and a lot of raw products. And countries produce more than they can use. And he said what we need to do is get an inventory through somebody like the United Nations, get an inventory of the excess, and then countries trade. And they trade what they have excess for something they need. And the goal isn't to have the most. The goal is to have what you need. That the needs of humanity will be the basis by which this trading will occur, and that it's sharing. Now, he's not saying that people on the street need to give up their hard-earned savings and give it away. That's not the kind of sharing we're talking about. We're not talking about communism. But we are talking about a democratic socialism or social democracy, which is exactly what Bernie Sanders is talking about, a social democracy where everybody has health care, not just some, where everybody has justice in the courts, not just some, where everybody has enough food to get by, that kind of thing. That's the purpose of government, is to make everybody's needs get met and at a minimum. and then we go from there.
Well, that's right.
That's right. The example for this, if I may just quickly add this, the example for this is reuniting East and West Germany. The reunification of Germany is the example to the rest of the countries, combining a socialist country with a democratic country, and they're still trying to make it work. But that's where we're all going to go, is my information, and it's necessary. The haves are going to be screaming in pain. It's not going to be a fun time for them.
Well, until they realize they're going to be taken care of too.
Yes. Yes.
They're going to be part of the basic solution. One of the things I followed as an economic idea is a basic income guarantee, at least while we're transitioning out of a scarcity monetary system, and that's to start, giving everyone at least a basic income, because one of the things that happens is we start to get closer to how the Space Brothers live, because they have technology that they use to take care of their everyday life and everything, is that we have technology that's kind of trapped, because it will be like energy technology that the oil companies don't want, medical technology some of the pharmaceutical companies don't want. We've actually been holding back innovation because the corporations benefit by scarcity. They benefit by, some of those things not coming around. And if we can just get, the idea that we're basically now manufacturing scarcity, which is kind of crazy. Yes. But I always tell everybody my toaster story, how I had you buy a toaster now and you're lucky if it lasts a year, which is planned obsolescence, and that's a real waste of resources right away. My mother-in-law bought a toaster right after World War II, built like a tank, and she still has it. So it's the idea that we'll start rethinking consumerism and thinking of provision for humanity. And these aren't really hard ideas. So, someone coming to teach them at the time that we're kind of shrugging our shoulders because we've gotten used to this way. It's not. We can have a change of philosophy and change of thinking and get used to a new way, and then in such a way that it allows these innovations to come in, and we'll have a society like the people flying around in our skies.
It's the older Piscean folks who are fighting this. The younger generations that are coming in, they welcome change with open arms. They can't wait. They can't wait for a change and improvement in the system. Basically, you're talking about Medicare for all, which would be medical coverage for everybody, and Social Security for all, basic income for everybody. We already got the system in place. We just need to expand it and make it work. Absolutely. That's where we're going. And what's going to come out of that is much more free time for people. People aren't going to have to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week anymore. That's not the way it's going to be. People are going to have a lot more free time to develop themselves. If you're starving, all you can think about is getting food. You can't think about spiritual life until you have all your basic needs met. And that's where we need to go. We need to get everybody's basic needs met by sharing excesses, countries sharing excesses with other countries, till we get everybody's needs met, and then we can start talking about learning and growing in a spiritual way. Humanity has gotten off the track. One of the separation that's been caused by Pisces has also happened in the religions. Every religion is the way, and of course that can't be true, So it's caused tremendous separation. Jesus' job, as I understand it, his primary job for the next, 50 years or so anyway, is going to be to get Christianity back on track, to get the Christian church back on track, because it's lost its way. That's going to be quite a job. But this is the last pope. We will not have a pope after this, because Jesus will take his rightful place in St. Peter's throne and be the head of the Catholic Church, the Christian church, worldwide from here on for the next 2,000 years. So this is the last pope. People don't know that, but it is. Jesus will be the head of the Christian church from here on. And then people will get their questions answered, and people will find out what he really meant when he's talking about things. So Christians that are afraid of the Antichrist when Maitreya comes forward, don't worry about him. Just pay attention to Jesus. You're going to see Jesus on TV worldwide, Just like you're going to see Maitreya on TV worldwide when he comes forward. He's going to be on every TV and every radio, and he's going to speak to the world. All eyes will see and all ears will hear. He's going to speak to the world, and there's 3 ways that you'll know it's him. And I'd be happy to tell your listeners what those 3 are. Number one, you'll see his face on TV, but his lips won't move. You'll hear his words in your head telepathically. That's the first way. It'll be a very strange experience, but it's the first way, and it'll be in everybody's native language. Whatever their native language is, that's how they're going to hear him. That's the first way you'll know it's him. The second way you'll know it's the world teacher for the age of Aquarius is that while he's speaking for 35, 45 minutes, nobody knows how long, nobody knows exactly when, while he's speaking, you will feel the love of God in your heart, that Christ energy, that Christ consciousness of love in your heart like you have never felt it before. A lot of people will be crying, and I'll probably be one of them. The third way you'll know it's him is that when he's done speaking, there will be press reports from all around the world saying that while he was speaking, hundreds of thousands of people were miraculously healed. And in these 3 ways, you will know that this is the teacher, and we can either follow his suggestions or not. He has said, I know your choice, and I am glad. He has said that there are 1.8 billion people ready to respond to him when he comes forward. And that's a critical mass. That's all it takes to start turning the planet around. It's the reason we're here. It's the reason we're on the planet right now, is to follow his suggestions if we want to and turn this world around. It's a very big responsibility that we have, but it's also a thrill. I mean, this is an unbelievable time to be alive. My understanding is starvation will end within 2 years of him coming forward. The plans are already made. They're already there to end starvation, to end war, to end the have and the have-nots separation. The plans are there, but nobody's ready to listen to them yet. But after the markets collapse, people will be ready to listen, you know. And when the teacher comes forward, things will happen very quickly, some of them. Others will take a while because the old conservative Piscean folks hate change. They're going to hang on and scratch and fight to the death, you know, over this. But it's inevitable. It's got to happen, and it's going to happen. It's a great time to be alive.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
The number 1 movie that won the Oscar was called Spotlight, and it was about the pedophile priest problem, the endemic to the Catholic Church right now. So it's a tough, topic to think about or talk about, but there really still is a lot of one-on-one evil and systemic evil that goes on in the world, and we do have people who profiteer by war. I mean, free will, they're exercising their free will to kind of be some bad guys, and it's like I believe that we can have a very different and more positive planet, but we definitely have a lot of people who, for whatever reason in their soul, they're psychopathic or they've, whatever, been trained that way. We have a lot of just deep, ingrained evil stuff to turn over, and these systems seem to have been assisting the evil side, not the other way around. So I'm just wondering, what kind of enforcement issues do you have, or what would be the process there, since they are exercising, in essence, their free will?
Well, the process will be that the will of the majority will win out. And I have 3 responses to that. Number 1, it's going to take time. Things like that, things like getting rid of the evil in the world isn't going to happen overnight. But once that ball starts rolling, it's going to happen over time. Number 1, it's going to take time. Number 2, it looks horrible when we start seeing all the evil atrocities of the Catholic Church coming to the surface. But coming to the surface and seeing it is part of the solution. You can't clean it up until you know it exists. So although it looks terrible when all this comes to light, it's actually part of the healing process. It's part of the cleanup process. So we want this to come to light so that we can clean it up. But in the process, it looks terrible. It looks like it's getting worse, when in fact it's not. And what was the third part of that? Oh, the third part of that is that the dark forces, and there are dark forces, and we don't talk about them much because the more attention you pay to them, the more power you give them. But I'll just say this. The dark forces know that their time is over. They know this is it. So they're fighting with everything they've got to resist this change and to resist the teacher coming forward. He's had several opportunities, but the door closed so quickly that he couldn't do it. The first one was in 1982, and there have been several, one in 1988, and several since then. But the door has been closed because the dark forces are fighting tooth and nail. I mean, they know this is the end of their grip on humanity. When a planet reaches the middle of the fourth round, like planet Earth is right now, that's when the people are ready to change. And so this is the perfect time for the teachers to come forward. There's going to be a teacher, a master, we call them, because they're masters over themselves, not because they're masters over us. They're called masters of the wisdom. There's going to be one in every aspect of life. There's going to be a teacher for the arts. There's going to be a teacher for finance. There's going to be a teacher for government. There's going to be a teacher for education. There's going to be a teacher for healthcare. And they're going to be making suggestions and trying to guide humanity in each of the major areas, one in transportation, in each of the major areas of life, these teachers, well, this is the perfect time for them to come forward because this is the time when humanity is now ready. We are ready. There's a critical mass of people who are ready for change and ready to turn this thing around. And so it's a perfect time for them to come forward. No, it won't happen overnight, but it will happen pretty quickly, like war. War will be over within just a few years, I'm told. Now, there will be little dictators who will still pop up here and there. The United Nations will have to go in. The United Nations is part of the big plan, part of the plan to help people cooperate and work together, and they will go in and put down these dictators, but it won't be the U.S. It won't be our military. It'll be the militaries of the world going in and saying, we can't have this. We got to put this dictator down, that kind of thing. There'll be no one world government or anything like that. Every country has a personality, and including a spiritual personality, and every country contributes to the whole on planet Earth, their personality. That's what makes it work. Just like everybody's different, all the human beings are different, and we all make a contribution. So it's going to take time, but it's going to happen, Karen. That's my information.
That's cool.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and you're right about finance. That's got to go.
Well, that's one of our major concerns because a lot of our friends are sitting there hitting rock bottom, and there's one step, if something goes wrong, they might be living out in the street. So we're
tell them there's tons of hope.
Helping those people.
There's tons of hope.
And we need hope, yes.
Yep. Humanity needs hope right now. It's one of the things I try to create in these interviews is a sense of hope, a sense that we're about to turn it all around. So fasten your seatbelt.
Well,
it's going to be a bumpy ride at first, but wonderful things are coming.
Well, I hope they hurry up. Well, when is this?
Let me tell you.
People are saying 2017 is like the big year that we're very actively working on disclosure because we think that disclosure will bring forth a lot of these technologies that have been repressed, like clean green energy systems, ways to clean up the environment, and the teleportation. There's teleportation, time travel. I mean, I'm tired of sitting in boxes flying around the globe or on the, I spend a lot of time in L.A. You guys are crazy in L.A. with all those cars, 12 lanes or whatever. I cringe because I'm over here in Maui, and at least it's everything's slowed down and it's still.
Boy, is it ever! I love it.
They get killed all the time.
Yes.
People are dying in the boxes that they travel in, and there's got to be a safe way of transporting people from point A to B, and one of the things we've been talking about is teleportation and the technologies that the extraterrestrials have. What do you think of all that?
Well, my information about the transportation of the future is that it will be pollution-free and it will be vibration-free. It will be stress-free. I am told that you will get on your transportation, whatever it is, to go from, let's say, L.A. or Hawaii to New York, And when you arrive in New York, it will be as refreshed as when you left Hawaii. That it will be just total comfort and stress-free, vibration-free transportation. That we have to do this. Teleportation will happen for sure. And we're all going to become more and more psychic, and we're all going to become telepathic. Now, free will play a role there. You can't read somebody's thoughts if they don't want you to, that kind of thing. But all of this takes time. It has to graduate in steps. So transportation will first become pollution-free and much more effortless. That'll be the first thing. But eventually teleportation, I have no doubt that will happen. That's in our future. But yeah, I was going to say, you talked about something else I was going to comment on. I can't remember what it was. But transportation is going to improve greatly.
Mm-hmm. And is there time travel? Like a lot of the whistleblowers are coming forth and saying they've been in different time travel programs. Some of them are saying they've been on Mars. So there is, you talked earlier about Mars having several different species. I know Robert Heinlein, who was like one of the very early whistleblowers, wrote it in his fictional books, and he wrote Stranger in a Strange Land about Michael Valentine Smith, and he was raised by the unseen Martians. And so when you said that, I was thinking about that book. Like, okay,
well, yeah,
so
the
that's
etheric
what
Martians,
Heinlein was talking about. The etheric Martians,
the unseen Martians, because they're etheric.
Mm-hmm.
They're in etheric physical, so that's why they're unseen. Yeah, exactly. As far as time travel goes, the spiritual kingdom knows no time.
Right.
Benjamin Creme was given a view just so that he could share it, and it's in some of his books. But he was given a view just for a few minutes by Maitreya, or by his master, I think maybe it was by his master, where he saw the world as the masters see it. And he said on the left was the past, and in the middle was the present, and on the right was the future. But he said it was all happening at the same time. He said it was the strangest feeling. He said it wasn't like a movie. It was 3D. It was three-dimensional, and it was all happening at the same time. It was like it was all thought forms, and the thought forms were precipitating into this solid physical activity that was going on. And he said that's his sense, anyway, of what timelessness is like in the spiritual kingdom. Everything's happening at once. The past and the present are all there, and the future are all there. They just precipitate into physical form one at a time, kind of thing. And so we have time, but they don't. So as far as time travel goes, I'm sure that being able to manipulate time, being in control of time, is part of the travel of the future. It's got to be. It's got to be. We have to be able to travel almost instantaneously. That's how the masters travel. They just think it, and boom, they're in Rome or they're in London.
Right.
They just think where they want to go, and they're there. And so that's part of the transportation of the future. But it's not so much. Time isn't the big deal, as I understand it. The big deal is realizing who we are. He says humanity has forgotten that there's a spiritual crisis right now, and the spiritual crisis is in every aspect of life. It's not just in religion, it's in every aspect of life, and it's because we have forgotten who we are. We're not, the way I like to say it is, we're not humans having spiritual experiences, we're spirits having a human experience, and we forget that. We forget who we really are, and the masters come to remind us who we really are. Because once we get back in touch with the fact that we're eternal spirits taking a temporary physical body, everything's going to change. It's just going to change how we view the world, how we view each other. It will help us see that we're all one. We really are one. Humanity is one. And as we become aware of that, then we'll take care. That's why the golden rule is so wonderful. Treat others like you would treat yourself, because they are you. You know?
Right.
Once we realize that, then it's going to make sense.
Not just a cliche. It's really what's going on.
No, not at all. It's real. And once we become aware of that, they're going to teach us so much stuff. But what you said about the space people is absolutely right. If our governments, if we knew the space people were here and we talked to them and we realized how brilliant they are, we would ask them for advice about how to live, not our leaders. Our leaders would lose all their power over the people completely. And that's why they've tried to discredit the space people, is because if we talk to them, then we don't care what our leaders say because they don't know anything compared to these folks.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
And Karen, are you okay there? You can interject anytime. My question is about... You're good. Okay, you're good. Is about longevity and physical immortality. 100,000 people a day are killed, actually, murdered when you think about it, because we already have cures for diseases, and our governments are just repressing these because it's big business, big money to sell pharmaceuticals, and they also are concerned about population, and they use this to manipulate and control humanity.
Absolutely.
So, looking at that there are cures for diseases and all that stuff, and the whole concept of overpopulation, which I think would be eliminated once we have exploration of space available. But what do you think is going to happen? Will we get these technologies to increase our life expectancy? And if so, the stories are that the Anunnaki lived to be over 500,000 years. What is our potential in our human forms, and are they going to allow these technologies to come forth?
Yes, they will. It's part of the plan is for these technologies to come forth. It's not will they allow it, it's, you mean will the dark forces allow it? Well, they're not going to have any choice. The technologies are there, and they will start coming forward very quickly once the masters are walking amongst us. A lot of those technologies will happen very, very quickly. But as far as the health of humanity goes, there's a couple things I want to comment on. One is the healing waters, and the other is the pollution. The problem with our pollution is that it's shortening our lifespans dramatically. The pollution, number one, is the biggest thing it's doing is lowering our body's immune systems. So we become susceptible to all kinds of flus that we wouldn't even get if we weren't polluting the planet. Cancers that we wouldn't even get if there wasn't any pollution on the planet. Our body would fight these off. So there's all these diseases that we're getting simply because we've got a polluted planet. So once we clean up our planet, a lot of these diseases we don't need cures for them because they're just going to disappear. And the other reason they're going to disappear is because Maitreya is charging, you could say blessing if you're of a religious nature, waters, deep water sources deep in the planet that come to the surface are being charged by Maitreya. They're being blessed by him to be healing water. Now, you've probably heard about the healing fountain of Lourdes in France. Well, that's been around for a long time. Well, this water is much stronger than that. The first one that was discovered in a little town in Mexico called Tlacote, 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 Mexico. And it's about 100 miles from Mexico City. And there was a rancher on this ranch. He had a sick dog, and he saw this water seeping up out of the ground. His dog licked the water, drank the water, and got cured. So he took the water and gave it to a couple other sick animals he had, and they got well. So then he pumped some of the water out from this underground source, and he took it to the local hospital, and the hospital let him give this water to a lot of the patients, and most of them got well. So then he decided, and he proposed it to the Mexican government, and they helped give him money, and he had some money of his own, and they built these huge pumps and these huge tanks to hold this water, and he started giving it out to people free of charge. And people were lined up. People heard about it. It's called Tlacote water. People were lined up for blocks with big containers. I had a friend of mine that actually went down there with his son, and they got some of the water. And what you have to do before you can get the water is you had to go in and talk to the nurses or technicians there and give them your contact information, who you were getting it for, what their problem was, what their disease was, or whatever, so they could do follow-ups. Well, it turned out this water was healing all kinds of things, from HIV and AIDS to different kinds of cancers to arthritis to all kinds of different things. And finally, he got an award from the United Nations for making this water available to people free of charge. Well, then he died, and his daughter closed down the ranch, so that water wasn't available. But before it was closed down, some people sent it to probably the most famous homeopathic pharmacy in the world, called Ainsworth, A-I-N-S, Worth, Ainsworth's Pharmacy in London. And Ainsworth turned the water into homeopathic tablets. And you can order this water, tablets. I have it. I take them every day, this water. And the only thing they could find that was different about it was a little bit lighter in weight than ordinary water. But Benjamin Creme's master says this water has been blessed. It's healing water. It's been blessed by Maitreya, the world teacher, and that what it really does is it raises people's immune system so they heal themselves and so that they don't catch other diseases. And so holy water is available. Well, now there's one that's been discovered in Germany underneath a restaurant that is the same kind of water. It's healing water. There's one in India comes out of a spring into a big concrete reservoir that people can actually sit in the water. There's one in India, and I'm told the next one is going to be in Texas. It's going to be discovered. It's discovered naturally by people. The next one is going to be discovered in Texas, and that before the age of Aquarius is over. Remember, what's the symbol for Aquarius?
Water.
A man carrying a pot of water. A man carrying a pot of water, the water bearer. He is the water bearer. There will be 777 of these healing wells around the world before the age of Aquarius is over, and that water will be a major contributor to the health of humanity, and it's free. And so with the healing water and with getting rid of pollution, we're not going to need a lot of these cures because we're not going to get these diseases. Humanity will live, you're right, humanity will ultimately live thousands of years. Right now, what we would say is that people are going to live to 100, maybe 200 to start get things started. But first we've got to clean up the pollution and make use of this healing water. The world teacher will talk about the water when he comes forward. But yes, humanity's health will get much, much better, and we will live much, much longer. You know, one of the reasons that a lot of families have so many babies around the world is because they know that there's not enough food, and some of their kids are going to die of starvation. Well, if their kids are going to take care of them when they're old, they need to have several just to have a couple left to take care of them by the time they get old. So families are having huge births of babies just because people are starving to death and people are getting diseases. And so once that reduces, then people won't need to have these large families, and they won't. They'll just choose to have fewer kids. It's all going to change once everybody gets fed and gets health care.
Like a reaction. It's like a survival reaction that you breed more because you're just hoping that at least one will survive.
Exactly. It's so that they can take care of you when you're old and you'd be taken care of. Yeah, exactly. So the poorer people are doing that a lot. It may not even
be about taking care of you. It might just be that on some core level, subconscious level, genetically, survival means that our DNA survives to go through the generations down through time.
Our family survive.
So
yes.
Our family survive, right? Not personal survival, but family survival.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just my thought. Okay, Karen, question for you.
I was enjoying the discussion about water because I worked on saving an artesian well once, and I learned a lot about water. And a healer friend said, well, since we're 70% water, more or less, what's the health problem 70% of the time? And that's
there you go.
The detoxification of water. And right now, One of the big issues I learned from working on this artesian well, which was really high-quality water, I think it was energized to help me in my awakening, was the city didn't know what to do with it because they couldn't add anything to it because it's just coming right out of the ground. They couldn't add their additives, and they couldn't charge for it. So they really were confused as how to, protect this well. We finally, banged out a solution. But it's like if they can't flow with it, it's not real water to them, which I think is interesting because the stuff they add is pretty toxic.
Yeah, and you can't charge money for it.
And I'm glad that, this thing about the idea of water being a real healing thing in the Aquarian age makes sense because I also lived near the water where, even though there might be some medication from our, space brothers, and pretty soon we're going to have to take responsibility for what we're doing because they can only go so far. We can't continue to keep dumping. One of the things I found out in my narrow little bay that we had there is how much petroleum products ended up in the bay because of our combustible engines are not efficient, so a little bit of gas drips out of everybody's tailpipe. And also they use petroleum-based agricultural products, and it's all slam-a-jamming into these waterways that, we keep trying to save them and bring back the salmon and all those things. And, water awareness is, really huge. I mean, it's really awareness is as what happened to me in my life, my awareness changed. I was kind of an average person, I just did what everyone else did. And then as I got more educated about the environment and what we're doing to it, it's like, and like you were talking about, is the toxicity is causing our bodies and even animals' bodies to have, constant inflammation issues, and that brings on all the other diseases right in on it. So we know a lot more. It's not a general public knowledge. We still listen to what our media tells us, and we still go use products and live the same way that we do. And then people who really try to make changes, they have a real struggle because, the products either not there that they would like to use or they're very expensive. Most people, the biggest impediment to them making changes in their household is that they're living hand to mouth. I mean, the cost of living and everything's so high they can't. We talk about in our family. What's one thing we can do, this month to have a more permaculture lifestyle, and it's a real difficult thing to implement personally. We need more people aware, and we need our leaders, to stop, beating their chests and saying they're the best and the other guy's rotten when they don't really talk about solutions, like real ones that a lot of us are looking for.
Right.
So it is an awareness thing, and education is an awareness thing, but it seems like it needs to be responded to on the people's side. I mean, you can tell them good stuff all day long, but what do you think besides, global collapse, the total results, because that's hard to dig out from. Just like if your house burns down, you might have learned a lesson about not playing with matches, but you got a long way to dig out. I mean, how do we shorten the lessons with each other and with our, friends and everything to where we don't have to go that far? We don't have to go all the way to the edge. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the plans for that and so many other aspects of life have mostly already been drawn up by some of the more evolved people on the planet who are working who are responding to the master's energy and to the master's impressions. And so there are a lot of plans for solutions that have already been drawn up, but they're not ready to be implemented yet because, like you said, you have to get people's attention, and it's a learning process. And so once the masters come forward, this kind of information will all of a sudden be available all over the place. It's one of the beauties of the Internet, by the way, is that it makes this information accessible to everybody very quickly. I want you to know that I'm not talking about 20 years from now. My information is that the world teacher will be seen on television on what he says it will be my day of declaration, the day that I declare who I am. What he needs, he's interviewing around the world right now on television. And I haven't had a chance to tell you this, but he already gave 29 interviews on U.S. television as part of a panel. Now, I didn't see any of those interviews, but then he went to Mexico and he's interviewing as an ordinary man. He did 14 interviews on Mexican network television. He did 41 interviews in Brazil, 51 interviews on Russian television. He did 34 interviews in China. He's also interviewed on Japan networks, Vietnam, Malaysia, India, and Indonesia. He's had over 169 interviews, and here's what he's waiting for. He's waiting for the press, the media representing humanity, to say, wait a minute, you know too much to be an ordinary person. Who are you really? Who are you really? And then when he is asked who he is, he can come forward without infringing our free will and have what he calls his day of declaration. And that's the day that all eyes will see and all ears will hear, and he will talk about the past and show where we've gone wrong, where we've lost our way. He'll give us a glimpse of this brilliant future that we have ahead of us. You know, one of God's great laws is the law of, I can't remember the name of it. But what it says is that however bad it's been, that's how good it's going to get. The law of equilibrium. However bad it's been, that's how good it's going to get, and he's going to give us a glimpse of this brilliant future that we have ahead of us. Then he's going to make some suggestions, and we can either follow them or not. So my information is that this day will be within the next 2 years, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2017. Nobody knows, but they know it's going to be soon, really soon. You know, I used to say 5 or 10 years, but yeah. So we're not talking a long time off. I mean, the masters are going to once the masters come forward, then the space people are going to come forward. You're going to see them on TV. They're going to talk to us. They look, you know, I don't know if you've seen any of Adamski's writings, but he took photos of a Martian that he knew, a couple of Martians that he knew, a man and a woman. They look just like us. They're short. They're only like 4'8" or 4'10", but they look just like us. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, it's coming garbled.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, Janet, you're having...
Okay, now it's perfect.
That's great. I have to unplug it, replug it. These are humanoid species. They could walk among us, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my information is there's about 2,000 of them walking amongst us right now on the planet.
Well, the gray aliens that we all, you know, the lore is all about, they definitely would stand out. But you're talking about species that look like they could just walk among us and go down the street.
Humanity that look just like us. Exactly right. Exactly right. Like the people from Venus are real tall. Most of them, I guess, are blonde. They have real pale skin. They're just gorgeous, from what I understand. They're like perfect human beings. If you can imagine what the perfect human being looks like. But they love our planet. I don't know if you have heard of Gerard Artson. Gerard Artson does interviews like I do around the world. He's from Europe, and he's got a couple books out. One is called Priorities for a Planet in Transition, The Space Brothers' Case for Justice and Freedom. And his first book is called Here to Help, UFOs and the Space Brothers. And Gerard says in his I'm sorry, would you like his name?
Go ahead. Oh, yeah,
Gerard.
I'm writing it down. Gerard.
Sure. Gerard, Gerard Artson, Aartsen, as in nothing, Gerard Artson. And he's got 2 books out. I'm sure they're available on Amazon. This first one is Here to Help, UFOs and Space Brothers. And the second one is Priorities for a Planet in Transition. And he talks about the future with the space people. And his resource is also Benjamin Creme and a couple other people. And he's had experiences himself. I know Gerard. He's a wonderful guy and very down to earth. And in one of his books, he talks about a Martian who was talking with someone else, and he said this, and I just think this is so cool. He said, the Martian said, "This is the blue planet with the blinding light, the home of the home of the graceful, long-legged human race. It is one of the most beautiful planets that we know. Isn't that beautiful? So they think they love how long-legged we are and how blue our planet is. It's one of the most beautiful planets they know of. I just love that quote. Anyway, I think you'd really enjoy reading his books. The one by Benjamin Creme.
For sure.
Yeah, the one by Benjamin Creme is called The Gathering of the Forces of Light, UFOs and Their Spiritual Mission. That's by Benjamin Creme. Gathering of the Forces of Light.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Benjamin Creme since we've evoked his name. Can you tell us who is he? How did he come about this information? Is he still with us in the physical? He looks like he might be getting up there in age. How old is he? I was just Googling him, and there's some negative press on him, so I want to give you the opportunity to address all that stuff.
I'm sure there is. See, what he's dealing in is prophecy. And the problem with prophecy, and the same thing that I'm dealing with, the problem with prophecy is you can't prove it because it hasn't happened yet. So that it's wide open to ridicule and like most of the advanced people on this planet have been. Benjamin Creme was contacted about 60 years. He's 92 years old. He doesn't travel anymore on the advice of his doctor, and we miss him. We used to look forward to his visits a lot. I interviewed him on television. I think as you know, I did 3 half-hour interviews with him. I've meditated with him. I've meditated with Benjamin Creme and attended his lectures and talked to him personally for about 20 years. So I know him pretty well. He's probably the most spiritual person I know and also one of the most humble people I know. He was contacted. He was told, you were being contacted by the masters, because he had read Alice Bailey and he knew about the Masters of Wisdom and the Ageless Wisdom and so on. And he said, no, I'm not. And they said, yes, but it's just bouncing off. You need to focus better mentally. And they said, you will hear from them in the future. And he did. He got a phone call to meet these guys on a bridge in London, and he did. And they said that the head of the spiritual hierarchy for planet Earth, Maitreya, the world teacher, would like him to do some work for him if he would be willing to do it. And they said what it was. They said he would like you to go around the world and tell the world that he is in a physical body and that he is waiting for the right time to come forward and that he's going to be coming forward soon. Now, the masters didn't know it was going to be delayed as long as it has been. Well, Benjamin Creme wasn't very crazy about this idea because he knew people would think he was crazy. And the master said, I will help you. I will train you. And so for 10 years, he was in training to be able to handle ridicule and so on without being discouraged. The master had him do all kinds of exercises. One night he had a couple, he and his wife had a couple over for dinner, and right in the middle of dinner his master said, I want you to climb the stairs and go up to the second floor. So he did. He said, now come back down. And he had him going up and down the stairs during the whole meal. But being certain that this was real and that this was important, he followed his master's instructions and became a disciple of that master. Well, then the time came, he said, okay, the time is here now for you to start going out, start in London and tell people that I'm here and so on, Maitreya, that I'm here. And he's never met Maitreya personally in Maitreya's own body. I think karmically, just because it's better for him to do it without having met him, to do it so that there's a little amount of faith involved. So anyway, so he started doing it. Well, then he was told there's supposed to be 5 people doing this around the world. There's a guy from Japan that was supposed to be telling the world, a guy from the U.S., New York, who was supposed to be telling the world about this, and a couple other guys that were asked to tell the world about Maitreya. Well, none of them responded. One guy thought he was Maitreya. The guy in New York thought he was Maitreya. The guy in Japan said, are you kidding? I'm going to get laughed out of the country. And so it ended up, he was the only guy telling this story when there were supposed to be 5 people doing it, or at least more than one. but none of the others responded, and he did. So then he had interviews on American television talking about Maitreya, the world teacher, coming forward sometime soon, and so on. He started this organization called Share International, which publishes a monthly magazine which you can subscribe to. It has no advertising because he didn't want to be beholden to anybody. He's the editor of Share International magazine, and it's sold basically at cost. It's in it's in over 45 countries of the world, and in different languages. He's written the books I've told you about, and I'm a volunteer for Share International. There are volunteers around the world. There's about 4,000 of us around the world that are telling this story, and especially now on his behalf since he can't do it much anymore.
Right.
So he's just a guy who I think is very evolved, who was asked to be a messenger for the world teacher and agreed to do that. And you should see the ridicule he got on some of the TV shows he went on and stuff. He was treated pretty nastily, as you can imagine. And he said all kinds of people come to his house and knock on the door. Hi, I'm Maitreya, and I thought you might just want to meet me, since you're doing all this work for me. And he said there are people all around the planet that say they're Maitreya, the world teacher. Maitreya is the leader of the spiritual hierarchy for planet Earth, and every major religion is expecting their teacher to return at about this time. The Jews are looking for the Messiah to come. The Christians are looking for the Christ to return. But it's not going to be the end of the world. It's going to be to get us back on track so we can continue to evolve in the right direction. The Buddhists have the right name. They're looking for the next Buddha by the name of Maitreya Buddha, and that happens to be his personal name. Yeah. The Hindus are looking for Krishna to come forward. The Muslims are looking for the Imam Mahdi. He comes to fulfill all of those prophecies in one person because we have worldwide communication now, and he can do that.
He can do it. Now, the person that you said is Jesus that's hanging out somewhere around the Vatican, what's he doing? What's his...
He's very busy.
Does he walk around and have lunch with everyone, at a restaurant in town? I mean, what's his life like?
Well, first of all, he's in a body that doesn't need to eat or sleep. So he doesn't. I'm sure he eats to be polite. There's a small, very small group of people on the outskirts of Rome that know who he is. Everybody else thinks he's just an ordinary guy, but he's working hand in hand with Maitreya. They work hand in hand together all the time. Now, they can appear in 25 places at once on the planet in any guise they want to. They can appear as a homeless person, as a child, as a young woman, any way they want to, all around the world, and they work together. One of the things they're doing is appearing to people. They've been appearing to people for over 20 years, and they will appear in many different ways. I've had... And if you think you've seen one of the masters, then you can write to Benjamin Creme, and he will publish it in Share International magazine. He publishes the letters of people who have had genuine experiences of one of the masters, and then he says that his master confirms which master it was that we saw. And so I've seen Jesus several times. I've seen Maitreya several times, and I'm sure you have too. You just don't know it. The three I saw, for example, I was in a grocery store, and I was looking at some magazines, and about 12 feet from me was this guy who looked to be in his mid-30s. It was cold here in Southern California, meaning it was winter and it was raining, and yet he had on this real tan kind of knit shirt and tan slacks, casual slacks, and white sandals. And he had a kind of a light brown beard and mustache, and I was looking at it, and I looked over at him, and I did a second look because his sandals, they were white sandals, but they were like naga hide. They were like that real shiny material, only they were way brighter than that. They were just really, really bright white in my eyes. And I did a double take, and then I looked at him again, and then I went back to finishing looking at my magazine, and I walked away. Well, One of the ways that you know you've seen a master is it's an ordinary occurrence like that, but you can't get it out of your mind. You keep remembering the person. You keep remembering them and visualizing them. Well, that happened to me. So I wrote to Benjamin Creme, and I said, was this a master? And he checked with his master and published my letter and said, yes, that was the Master Jesus. I saw a homeless guy in the park that I usually gave money to. Well, he wasn't there that Saturday when I went down to the park. But there was another homeless guy there, folding clothes, but the clothes looked a little too pressed and too neat. His face looked real ruddy, like he'd been outside. He had kind of dark brown hair, shoulder-length hair, and he was folding his clothes. And I got some cookies from my mother in Minnesota, and I took a little can of cookies for this guy, too. Well, I had this. I walked over to him, and I said, are you a camper? Because sometimes they don't want to be called homeless. And he said, yeah, I guess you could say that. And I said, well, here's some money. And I said, here's some cookies that my mother made. He said, oh, I'm sure if she made them, they're very, very good. Thank you very much. Well, I couldn't get this guy out of my head. Turns out it was Maitreya. So I saw a little girl. I better not tell that story. It takes too long. But I did see a little girl at a book fair. She was about 9 years old. She said she was going for her first baptism. I said, I had my first communion. I had my first communion too. And turned out the little girl was Jesus. And she did, yeah, she did. And so the other ways that people know, one, you can't get it out of your mind. Number two is there's something in the eyes that just really looks special. Something about the eyes, either they're bright or they twinkle or they look like they're looking right through you. I saw Jesus on a park bench. He was a homeless man with a long gray beard and a dirty trench coat, and he was on a bus bench at a corner, and I stopped for a red light, and I looked over at him, and my first thought was, that guy is looking right through me. I don't know why I had that thought, but I did. Then the light turned green, and I went on. Couldn't get him out of my mind. I wrote to Benjamin Creme. It was the Master Jesus. Well, anyway, and I grew up a Christian, so it would make sense that Jesus would appear to me more than Maitreya. But in any event, so that's the second way. One way, and the third way that you know you see the Master is your heart just leaps for joy.
I just wanted to add that your imprinting of what you expect to see might influence what you see. In a way, because I'm
sorry. Say that again, please.
Your imprinting, what you expect to see, like your symbol of a high spiritual being is Jesus, because you were raised Christian, then that's what you might see when you see a high, like Maitreya or a spiritual teacher, a master, right.
But they'll appear to anybody. I've seen Maitreya several times. I have friends that aren't Christian at all, but they've seen Jesus several times. But the point is, the other way that you'll know you've seen one is they just fill your heart with joy. You feel like your feet aren't even touching the ground. You're just so happy, and there's no reason for you to be this happy. You don't know what's going on. What's going on?
I'm just happy.
I know. I was walking to the parking lot after college class, walking across the campus, and these two boys were walking towards me on the sidewalk, and I looked up. Just as they got to me, there was a young lady walking behind them, looked about 19 or so, and she just barely smiled at me. But, my heart was just so full of love and joy, and I just felt so good. My first thought was, man, I wish I could make people feel that good by just smiling at them. And I couldn't get her out of my mind. I wrote in she was Maitreya. So they're appearing to people all the time.
That's accessing that higher part is one with all of them. So you are channeling the highest part of consciousness for all of us. So you are Maitreya. Maitreya is you, and when you are into that Christed consciousness or the high spiritual teaching consciousness, then everywhere you go, you'll see God in everybody and everything, so to speak.
Well, that's true.
What I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, we will. And that's one of the things, that's exactly one of the things they're trying to teach us, is that everybody is sacred. Everybody's a living soul.
So you don't need an eternal being anymore. You realize it's within yourself, and it's everywhere you look. And so you become a Christed consciousness and aware.
Exactly. We are all, Jesus wasn't the one and only Son of God. We are all sons and daughters of God.
And that's what the message of Jesus was.
He was just able to express it more. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the kind of message that the teachers come with, is that you're it. You know, we're all going to be masters someday. And then we can take whatever spiritual path we want to. There's several paths that the masters can take. They can take the path of sonship, which is the Christ consciousness path. They can take the path of being a god of a planet. You can work your way into that. There's all different. You can go to Sirius. Sirius is a very, very, very advanced solar system, and there's a direct line from our solar system to Sirius. And Sirius evolution happens really fast on Sirius, my understanding is. There's the path to Sirius. That's one of the paths you can take. And so we'll continue to have choices no matter what level of consciousness we're on, which is really cool. And we'll continue to learn. We'll learn the lessons. Once we've learned all the lessons that planet Earth has to teach, you know, the soul is eternal and keeps taking bodies. Each time it picks up where it left off last time, because it remembers. And until we learn all the lessons that planet Earth has to teach us, then we don't need to take a body anymore to learn lessons. We will become permanent spirits, as Jesus demonstrated when he ascended. He ascended and showed us where we're all going to go. So you're absolutely right. It's just the path of getting there. You know, the royal road to spiritual growth, according to the Ageless Wisdom, is meditation and service. That's the royal road.
We have just 10 minutes left and past on the end of our show. Boy, that went quick. Karen, what would you like to say?
I'm back over with Benjamin Creme running up and down his stairs trying to learn not to be subject to ridicule. I like that story because I think when people, they're thinking about looking at an alternative path and they're trying to branch out and learn new things and, they start to check with their friends, and that's the first thing that happens. We're very much cowed by ridicule so much in our society. And it's like, get over it. Lose all the friends you're going to lose. Find your new friends, find your new family, because we can't really expand who we are if we're afraid of that. And it's not like ridicule is like you're going to get hit with a hammer or something. It is worse.
Yes.
Yes. And so I've been through that process myself, and now I kind of delight in it. I had an interesting interchange with somebody who is almost a professional ridiculer, and realizing that, once you get past a certain
You're fitting, Karen.
Once you get past a certain point in your growth, ridicule really can't touch you like it used to. So I like that story.
Yes. Yeah, Maitreya comes to get rid of fear and guilt. He says there's no reason to feel guilty. Just do the best you can. Isn't that great?
That's a good one, too. Yeah.
Yeah. He says the goal isn't to choose right every time. The goal is to learn from every choice. That's why we have free will, so we can learn and grow. You can learn from a wise choice. You can learn from a poor choice. The goal isn't to choose right every time. The goal is to learn from every choice and not repeat it.
Yeah. And how do you get good judgment is you have poor judgment a lot and you learn.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You learn the consequences.
Yeah,
yes.
And I like that, too, because we picked up where we left off. People talk about past lives. I realized I had a life in Chicago, and I've only been there once. And, it's like I became aware of where I stopped at that point, and some things from that lifetime came over into this lifetime, including the fact that I'm a pretty good saxophone player. But besides, I was a jazz musician. And
good for you. I'm a trumpeter.
Yeah, I was a gentleman in Chicago, a black gentleman actually in Chicago who played the saxophone. But the life lessons for me to learn was self-care and to care for others and and to expand my mind. A lot of things from the past, people had such limited perspectives, and this is the era of expanding your mind and thoughts and digging into new ideas. And, because our thoughts right now, where you talked about thought forms, that's something I learned from Madame Blavatsky, is that thoughts are things. They can kind of tie us up or they can free us. We need to be the master of our thinking and our thoughts, and that's kind of the big lesson right now, because we seem to be manifesting our thoughts so much quicker now, and we need to go, whoa, I got to be careful with those.
Yeah. The next step ahead for humanity is right relationship. And, humanity has evolved in 4 aspects. Most philosophies agree man is made up of 4 aspects: physical, emotional, which is also called astral, mental, and spiritual. And humanity is mostly astrally focused right now on feelings. We make a lot of decisions based on feelings. And the problem with feelings is they're temporary. If you don't like how you feel, just wait a day. It'll probably change. But where humanity needs to go now is we need to go to a mental focus and a spiritual focus. That's next, and that's where we start seeing each other as one, and where we start establishing right relationship with each other. And the key to that fear of criticism, Maitreya is going to teach, and that is detachment. We need to be detached from things instead of attached to them, including people.
Mm-hmm.
And detached doesn't mean you don't care about them or you don't love them or anything like that. Detached simply means that you're not enmeshed with them. If my wife has a bad day, I can still have a good day because we're detached from each other,
Right.
If I have a bad day, she can still have a good day. She says, oh, honey, I'm sorry you had such a bad day. I had a great day. That's detachment. That's detachment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how you do it. That's how you receive criticism, and you're just detached from it. And you just think, I don't care what their opinion is. I know in my heart of hearts what I'm doing is right. It's the best thing I can do right now, and I'm going to keep doing it no matter what they say. That's detachment. He comes to teach detachment because it's going to save us so much misery and so much guilt and so much fear. Detachment is one of the keys. It's a big teaching that we're all going to get.
Stop being so codependent.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's a great time to be alive, you guys. This is an exciting time. We're going to be taught all kinds of marvelous things. We're going to see amazing things. Your listeners, you're like I said, fasten your seatbelt because you're going to see amazing things happen. And if you're afraid of the Antichrist, trust that love in your heart because that's the Christ consciousness. The Antichrist can't do that when you have that experience of Maitreya, the world teacher. But everybody has to decide for themselves. Everybody will have their own personal reaction to that experience, and then they'll live their life according to that reaction, which is as it should be. And that's what he wants. Mm-hmm. He wants us to choose freely. He also wants to help us, just like the space people want to help us. Once he comes forward, the space people aren't going to land on the White House lawn and introduce themselves to President Obama, and that's not their thing. This isn't their planet. They're not going to steal the thunder of our spiritual kingdom, of our masters. They're going to wait until our masters come forward, and then the masters will introduce the space people to us, and then they will start to walk amongst us and work with us and help us and give us the science and technology of light and so on. So that will all happen after the They don't want to steal the masters' thunder because this isn't their planet. They're just here to support the masters. They're part of the forces of light that are here to help the masters come forward and to help humanity get back on track. It's going to be something, I'll tell you. You can see it happening. You can see the power of groups at work. If you just look at the news, you can see it happening. Look at Bernie Sanders. He went out to the common folks for money, and he's raised more money from the everyday folks than others have from all the rich corporations. I mean, that's the way Aquarian energy works.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time. That's great. May
I give the website?
Totally get that. Yes, I wanted to make sure you say everything. And Karen, one last word from you, and then we'll go back to Dick, and he can give the website. Any final words, Karen? You awake?
No,
you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? No, this was
yes,
good. I appreciate him coming on and some of these really super positive thoughts. And especially, I'm an experiencer. There's many people who are experiencers, have interaction with the space people, and it's pretty much been all good. And all that is being said is that they really want us to, they want to talk to us again and be among us again. They used to, And so I believe that. I think that's true. I think that, one of the reasons why the UFO won't land on the White House
we gotta,
lawn is
we
because.
Gotta give it the last.
Okay,
few
go
seconds
for
to
it.
Dick,
Go for it. Take it.
Okay, take it away. Take it away, Dick.
The website is
website.
The website is share share-international.org. All spelled out, share-international.org. There's videos, there's audios, there's pictures of miracles that have been happening around the world. There's UFO pictures. There's great stuff on that website. I really enjoyed your questions and your comments, you guys. You guys were great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Can people reach you and ask you questions there on that website?
I'm sorry?
Can people reach you and write you or ask you questions?
I'm sorry, no, they can't. This is how I contact people, so I'm really sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay.
Keep up the great work, you guys.
That information. Well, thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Love and blessings and aloha to you and all the listeners, and we'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Aloha.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, you guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye, Dick. Thank you. Aloha.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.